Yeah. Well, for you guys, what about some of the books that you wrote?
The books. Well, it was interesting, really. I never really wanted to write a book, but I was just asked to. So this was back in 2001. I had created options trading software, a platform for it. And with the platform, I put instructions in there. And an author from the Financial Times saw it, and he goes, "Wow, I think you got a book here. Do you want to write a book?" I go, "I don't know." He goes, "I'm going to introduce you to some fellow at the Financial Times. I think you got a book." And he was a successful author, so his recommendation probably was what really did it. But anyway, they met me, and I showed them this stuff on my computer that I'd written, and they go, "This is a book. We could get a book here. Do you want to write a book?" I go, "All right, sounds like fun." And so I wrote the book, and then it became a bestseller. Now, when we say bestseller, let's now contextualize that. We're not talking Harry Potter bestseller. We are talking financial niche trading bestseller, unfortunately. But anyway, then they said, "Well, right, what's the next one?" And I go, "Well, I have another one." I was building the Option Easy website at the time. And I said, "Well, here's what I can do with that. I'm building this website, but that lends itself to a really good reference guide as well. Do you want me to do that?" And they go, "Yeah." So I created the Bible of Option Strategies. I was building the site here and copying and pasting it into a book format there. And so that then became a bestseller as well. So and that really is just a reference guide to all different types of option strategies and how you use them, when you use them, risk, rewards, that kind of thing. And so those two have gone into third and second editions respectively. I've written a couple of other ones that I actually rate potentially higher, but they haven't sold as many. But here's what happens. It's going to be a little controversial here, but it makes it more fun for everybody. Here's what happens. So I created the OVI indicator, and you have to understand that to create an indicator using billions of rows of data over many years takes enormous resources, and we are a pretty small operation. So it had to be done slowly, methodically, carefully, but it still took time, still took a lot of money as well. So when in total, I've obviously spent cumulatively millions of dollars on this thing, which is now fueling hedge fund performance and other things. But when you mention it in a book, this OVI, and you explain it and all this, obviously within the context of a $20 or $30, $40 book, of which you get a tiny royalty, okay, you are mentioning it because ultimately you're hoping there'll be enough interest in it for people to say, "I'd like to check it out a bit more, maybe subscribe," etc. Remember, millions of dollars of investment have gone into this indicator. Well, what happens is people read your book and go, "Oh, he's just trying to sell his indicator, 1 star." So what happened is in the first editions of both those books, they were 4.5 stars, and literally rave reviews and this and that. The minute I then did the next editions and wove in chapters for OVI in there, and then wove it into the fabric of the book, "Oh, he's just trying to sell." Well, it only took a little bit off, but there were people who then criticized, "Oh, he's just trying to flog his." Guys, let's get real. Do you realize what goes into this stuff? And there's only so much one is not going to make a living out of a financial trading book, and we're not meant to either. It's there because it was, I was asked to do it. It seemed like a good thing at the time, a bit of fun, something different, and also there is something about teaching that either further crystallizes what you know or gives you more ideas for what you should do better. And that's really the big thing about being in the education space, I've found, is it's just made me miles better. And it's forced me to improve all the applications I designed and build, and to a point where, hang on a second, we're now servicing professionals and talking with hedge funds, and we've got funds under management, and that wouldn't have happened. So sometimes by being forced to communicate what you do and being forced to be a better communicator, you actually improve what you're doing at your core. So that's been my journey. So the books, which was your original question, have been really a bit of an eye-opener for me. So I suspect that I've learned every bit as much, if not more, than the people who've read my books and been to my, workshops and used my software. And it carries on being a steep learning curve, and that's why we are known for always pushing the barriers and improving all the time. And then when you get into that cycle of life in your career, and Victor, it sounds like you're in exactly the same spot, you then get addicted to getting better and better and improving, and now you're in this vortex where you just can't, you've got a pipeline of 2 years worth of work always in front of you in terms of improvements and innovation. And I will say one thing, innovation is a real addiction. Once you're in it, it is the most fantastic place to be, because life is never boring. And that's a fortunate place to be when you're in sort of fintech, which is what both of us are in.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more that once you get the gist of something and you try to spread your knowledge, try to share your knowledge, you learn more by sharing this knowledge and come up with something new and build on top of that. So it's like an endless cycle of perpetual innovation.
But it's a fun thing, it's and by the way, there's a reality to it as well, because it's basically innovate or die as well. So but it does kind of, it's like, when you did exams at school, you think, when you look at it, like, a year before, you go, how am I ever going to do that? But then when you're in it and all your pals are having to do their revision for their exams as well, you kind of just get carried along with it. And that's kind of like what fintech innovation is like as well. Once you're in it, it kind of has this energy of its own. And so, every day I wake up and I do this and do that, have a shower, and then ideas are just flooding in. And then we're talking about it, and then we're conceptualizing it. And it's just, that's what my life is now. And you travel, you go on holiday, you go on, and ideas are forever sprouting. And now I've been in a career before all this where nothing like that went on. So it's rather fun. And it doesn't always feel like work, albeit that it is. It doesn't feel like it, because it
never feels like work.
Well, it depends on the coding and stuff and the
wow.
So I don't know about you, Victor, but I work with quantitative analysts, and let me tell you, working with those guys, because what they do is this. It's a very interesting situation. I am a very visual guy. So all the ideas I've had come out of visualization of an end result or of data. But quants, I mean, we're talking about egghead quants. They don't do that. They refuse to visualize data because they say that it will skew them. It will make them curve fit. And so they don't do it. So they just literally send me over these spreadsheets and no formatting. And let me tell you, when I get sent those, I have two reactions. I'm joyful because I'm hoping to find something and it's fun to actually, but every single time I have to go in and reformat the whole thing and turn it in, and that's when it's work, right? That's work. that isn't playtime at all. So, but yeah, but it is really, it's a fascinating thing. We should talk, just to see, what's going on, because I'm just fascinated. I'll never get into your kind of stuff, because one thing I do realize is that you've got to kind of stick to your niche, otherwise you spread yourself too thin.
Sure.
But yes, it's a very interesting, you never stop learning, and I think that's a very exciting thing. I have an anecdote. I won't tell you who it was, because to preserve the dignity of the departed. But let's call it a relative of mine, an older generation relative of mine, asked me once in my 20s. I'd done I think I'd done my second degree at that point. And anyway, so asked me something. I said, well, I'm doing this thing. And so why are you doing it? I said, well, because there's just so much to learn. I'm just, absorbed. He goes, what do you mean? You've already done a degree. There's nothing more for you to learn. And I literally, even then at my young age at that point, I knew that was probably the most insane thing I'd ever heard, because, you know, here I am at 50 and I don't think I'm even 10% of my learning journey at this point in time, because it's accelerating so much. So so whoever's out there listening, I am no guru, you know, I'm not a life guru or anything like that, but if you can get yourself absorbed into something which compels you to learn and you enjoy that learning, I think that might be one of the secrets to being happy.